Welcome again to the S.E.M podcast. Jack Bryce and Zach Hewlett here today, and today we're joined by our friend Ian Felton. Ian, it's so good to have you. What part of the world are you calling from tonight?
I'm calling from Gorleston, which is the very east of England, pretty much as east as you can go, near enough.
Love it.
It's been lovely weather the last few weeks, so
Isn't it supposed to be at this time of year? I mean, late July, early August, it's like the peak point of British weather.
well, we've had like summer for about 2 months already, so we don't know how much longer we're going to have it. We're meant to have rain, and we haven't had any rain, so it's kind of nervy.
Yeah, I love it. Very good. All right, Ian, well, kick us off by telling us a little bit more about your experience prior to getting your call going to Scotland.
Yeah, so I'm very open about it. When I was 7, I was diagnosed with ADHD and autism. Struggled kind of all through like prepubescent and teenage years. I was a recluse. I was angry, violent. However you want to describe it, I was pretty much it. I was, if you imagine an ADHD child, that was me. I was a nightmare. And I remember when I was baptized, you get interviewed by the bishop, and I remember the bishop telling me that I didn't need to be baptized, and my mum was in the meeting with me, and he said, turn to my mum, and he goes, he's never going to serve a mission. He's never going to get married. He's never going to accomplish this stuff because it's just not going to happen for him. And so kind of since then, I've made it my mission to just stick it to him, I guess, and prove him wrong. I've done things that I didn't think I would ever do, especially after my mission, like moving away and moving to whole different countries and stuff. So it's I was wasn't in the stars, I guess, from when I was young, and people kind of saw that in me, and I kind of just wanted to prove that they were wrong.
Nice.
And I kind of went through a period of my teenage years. I'm a third generation Latter-day Saint, in my grandparents from both sides were fully active members. They've all had multiple children. So I was kind of always around the church, and I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people nowadays that I speak to don't see me as someone who has autism necessarily or ADHD, because growing up in a church life, you're forced to attend seminary, you're forced to attend dances whether you wanted to or not, or at least back in my day I was. So my parents were like, you're 14, you're going to this now. I'm like, oh, am I? Okay. Forced to do talks in sacrament meeting, and prepare for talks. And so I've always been very good at talking, and today you're going to find out.
I love it.
And originally, I didn't have any idea to serve a mission. I didn't really want to serve a mission. That wasn't who I was. I didn't think I'd ever fit in or do it. I remember when I was like 18, coming up to 19, I was getting in and out of trouble, not necessarily as widespread or with the law or anything like that, but I was doing things that I kept thinking, if I do this and the police catch me, if I do this and my parents catch me, I could end up going to prison, or doing just ruining my life in some sort of way. And I remember sitting down one night, and I went to said a prayer, and it was probably the first heartfelt prayer I'd ever said in my entire life. And I was just like, God, I need to know what I should do. Like, my life is going nowhere. I'm not doing anything. I'm struggling with friends. I'm in the wrong crowds. I would go to church in person, but not in spirit. I would just, like, my parents had this rule, like, they didn't mind if we didn't want to go to church when we were older, because they wanted us to find our own way and find our own path. But they said, like, until you're 18, you will come with us to church no matter what. Like, that is the rule. And I was like, fair enough. And I was ticking down the days until I turned 18. Um, and then there was one night I was just like, I need to change my life. I need to do something about this. And I remember just sitting on my bed at the time, and I was just saying this prayer, like, I need to know what I'm doing in my life. I really don't know where I'm going, what I'm doing. And I felt peace, I felt calm, but I didn't really feel anything else. And I was like, well, that's not an answer. For me, that's not an answer. I was expecting, I wasn't expecting angels, but I was expecting some sort of like magical phone call that goes, you need to do this. There's nothing. And church was the very next day, and I get up dressed for church, and I'm all groggy, and I'm like, ugh, fine. I'm still feeling terrible about myself. And as I walk in, the bishop that we had at the time clocks me and he goes, Ian, come over here. And I go, have I done something? What have I done? And he goes, I've got these for you, hands me papers. And I'm like, this is lovely. What's this? And he goes, I want you to prepare for a mission. You start filling this out now. And I was like, oh, okay. Because I mean, I was 18 and a half, I think, at the time. And I was like, oh. And that was then when I realized that was what God wanted me to do. He wanted me to serve a mission. He wanted me to get away from the friends that I had at the time that weren't any good for me. And I remember just going, okay, I'll fill it out. I'll fill it in. And I prepared to go to the temple and got my endowments done. And since then, I love the temple. It's one of my favorite places to go to. And London Temple has beautiful grounds, has beautiful celestial room, and it's just a wonderful experience, as you guys, can attest to, living in Utah. There's 1,000 of them there. But
It's true.
I love going to the temple. And my parents always taught me that when you go to the temple, you go with a question. Like, you don't go empty-handed. And so I went to the temple several times, and every single time I went to the temple, I was like, is the mission right for me? Like, I'm filling these papers in, I'm doing everything I need to do. Is this really right? Am I doing the right thing? And every single time I just got this feeling of, yeah, it's right. You know what you're doing. Do it. I'm like, okay, fine. So I sent my papers in. As far as I'm aware as well, I'm the last person in the UK to ever send it in paper form. Because the people in my state after me, they had the in-between version that kind of came out that was like half online and half paper. And whereas mine was all just solid paper that you had to then send off to Germany and then send off to Salt Lake from there. Yeah, I mean, everyone else got mission calls before me, at least in my state. But all my friends that was in my ward, none of them, they were all either a bit younger than me or wanting to go after they'd finished college over here, or were waiting for the right time. So all them left about 6 to a year after me. So I was the first one from my ward to kind of be the breakout. But all the people that had served their missions in my ward, particularly, had all gone to the Manchester mission or the Leeds mission, and I just didn't want to go to England, anywhere but England. I don't know what it was. I just didn't want to serve in England. I didn't want to learn a language either. I just wanted to not be in England. I wanted to be somewhere fancy, but like Hawaii would have been lovely. My dad served in New Zealand. New Zealand would have been lovely. But I got the call to Scotland, Edinburgh, and I was really excited and really pumped because I had an auntie who wasn't a member of the church, or a great auntie, my nan's sister, and all her family living up in Inverness, and a couple of them actually are members as well, which she wasn't. And I wanted to go up there and baptize her and be this cool like missionary who baptizes family and have all that. So I was excited to serve in Scotland, and I didn't know at the time that missions were going to combine. I was just looking really forward.
Yeah, what was the time frame then? So you got your call and started in Scotland at what point?
So I went to the MTC on the 19th of February 2010.
Okay.
And so it would have been 2 weeks after that, roughly, give or take. So it would have been around the first week of March or the last week of February, somewhere around there.
That they made that announcement of the combination.
No, well, at least I didn't know.
Oh,
I
sorry.
don't know if my
As far
mission
as
president knew, but
getting to Scotland is what you're saying, right?
yeah. So I also got a nice opportunity that like my mum got to put my missionary badge on me because she drove me to the MTC, which other people didn't really have because they were coming from the States or other countries. Or but yeah, I love my MTC experience. That was when I got a taste of what it was like to be away from like mummy and daddy. Like I didn't have that comfort to fall back on. And obviously nowadays missionaries can call home every week and stuff, and I didn't have any of that. I had like these weekly emails which wouldn't get my emotions across, and I'm terrible at writing those sort of things. So that was just terrible. Um, I also got volleyball banned in the MTC as well. I we played companions against each other, and I spiked the ball into my companion's nose and broke it, and then the mission president banned it for like 6 months or so. Just said no more volleyball. Okay, my bad. But I also got a taste of real missionary work. We went out to Preston to do some finding. I can't remember where. It was like some like backward streets somewhere, and like, and they just would drop a missionary off on each, like a couple of missionaries off on each street, and you just go down each street. And we ended up being brand new missionaries, not knowing how to teach, just knowing what we wanted to teach. And I'm going to say at this point, I didn't know anything about the church. I'd grown up in the church and around the church. I'd completed seminary for 4 years. I'd done all of that, but things never stuck in my head. And I guess I knew Joseph Smith was a prophet. I knew the Book of Mormon was true. That was about as far as it got. I didn't. I knew the bits of the plan of salvation, and obviously in the MTC you went through all the lessons and stuff. But that was where I really kind of had a crash course, and this is the church, and I'm like, oh, I should probably know this if I'm going to be teaching people this. So, kind of shocked. But we had tracked in, as I'm sure if you went to Preston, you ended up going and doing a little bit of tracking for an hour or so. We tracked down the street and we found this lady, and we had to pass this letter on, or the contact information, to the missionaries in that area. And I got an email about 4 months later saying she got baptized, which was kind of like, that was my first experience of being like, oh my goodness, I'm a missionary. I can do this. Because at that time I was
That's
like,
huge.
It's awesome.
like, it doesn't come across here, but I'm like 5'6", and I was tiny. I was skinny. I didn't have a chin or anything like that. I was a stick. I looked like I was 12. I didn't expect at all to, have any of that. And just to get an email saying, oh, by the way, this lady that you happen to meet and pass on to us, she's now a baptized member of the church. I'm like, that's lovely. Like I don't really count it towards my baptisms because I didn't really do anything towards it other than just get a contact information because she wanted to see the missionaries afterwards. But I feel like I felt like I was doing my purpose, which before my mission I dedicated myself to service. I wanted to serve people. So then I go to the mission field, and I got to meet President and Sister Griffiths. And the first meeting I had with them, the only way I could describe it was just he exuded spiritual power. There was just this aura around him of this man who was charged with leading the missionaries in Scotland, and it was just, I felt safe. I don't know how else to describe it other than I felt safe. I felt like I was, the Lord was going to protect me because he was my mission president. And whether that's the right way to look at it, I don't know. But that was what it was like for me. And we got to climb up Arthur's Seat, which I hated. Personally, I'm not big on hikes, so didn't like that at all. But I remember we had this meeting with our mission president, and you got to sit down, and he would ask me a bit about myself, where I came from, if I had any expectations or goals for my mission. And I remember sitting down and saying, I just want to serve people. And I am not the sort of person who ever looks for leadership in any kind. It just doesn't suit me. I don't. It's not who I am. I'll always do a call in. If I'm called to do it, I will do it. But I will never ask for it or seek it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had the opportunity there to tell my mission president, I'd love to be just a junior companion on my mission, or I'd love to. I just want to teach people. I don't want to have to deal with missionaries' stats. I don't want to have to deal with having to teach other missionaries. That takes away my time from teaching the people of Scotland. Because at that time, that's how I looked at it. I was very a logical person. I am here to teach the people of Scotland, not to teach some missionary who's come from another. You know what I mean? I wanted just to teach the people of Scotland, and he kind of sat down and was like, well, if you get called, you get called, but I'll think about that and I'll consider it. And I was kind of grateful that I was a senior companion towards the end of my mission, but that was about it, and I was happy with that. That was me all over. I was in a good place just doing that. I didn't want to be an assistant or a district leader or a zone leader. That didn't look good on me. I mean, now I'm first counselor in a bishopric. You had Joe Drury on a couple of weeks ago, and I'm sure you mentioned it. But I absolutely hated the idea of being in leadership. I'm not a leadership person. I love to serve people and I love to help people out. That's as far as I go. But I mean, I love my calling at the moment. I'm enjoying what I do, and I'm getting an opportunity to serve. But would I ask for it? No. So do you want me just to go into my areas?
Yeah. Tell us where you started as a greenie in Scotland.
So I started in Dumfries Ward, which is the very bottom south of Scotland. And there's a very unique thing about Dumfries, is that there are 4 houses that go into England in the area. So if you don't get to tract in Preston MTC, if you go in that area, you can tract England. So I can say confidently that on my mission, I tracted in 4 different countries. Because we went and we would knock on these doors, and the people would answer doors going, "Love, it's the missionaries again." I'm like, "Oh, again, lovely. So you've had us before." But the people were really nice. They were just like, "Look, we get it that you might not get to ever tract in England. This is a fun thing for you," and they understood it. It was great. But yeah, it was just a good opportunity to do it in England, as well as Scotland. So my very first week,
Dumfries was my greenie area too, Ian. That's where I started.
I love that. So you'll know some of the people that I might mention potentially. So my very first week, my trainer was like, "Oh, by the way, we've got a baptism Sunday." And I'm like, "Oh." And it was like a less active family who were coming back from being active, and they were called the Lessels. And they ended up wanting their daughter to get baptized. And so the very first week she got baptized. And that was kind of a cool experience because I got to see how a baptism was performed. But I also my training was like, "Oh, have you got a gold tie?" So what do you mean a gold tie? He's like, "Well, when someone gets baptized, you have to wear a gold tie because they're golden investigators." And I'm like, "No." So he took me straight to Barber, which was one of the department stores, and was like, "Let's get you a gold tie." And I had to spend like 15 quid on a gold tie, which I still have and still wear for baptisms. When my children both got baptized, I wore it for them. Anytime that a person gets baptized in the ward we're in at the moment, I wear my gold tie every single time because it's just ingrained into me that it's kind of like a nice little thing that stuck with me.
That's pretty cool. Who is your companion, Ian?
So my companion was an elder called Tavin Stookie.
Okay.
Great guy, but I don't think I really understood or respected him enough. And what I mean is, like, this was my first time leaving my parents, being away from them. This was the first time living with another man, and being around that sort of environment. And things about him annoyed me. And nowadays, like, when I think about it, I'm like, oh, I was so childish. Why was I doing that? Like, but I mean, he really taught me a lot, and I respect him a lot for that. If it hadn't been for him, I may have gone home early. Who knows? I don't know, but just the way that, like, he would stick me into teaching straight away. He was like, "We're going to go and teach this person. We're going to be teaching them plan of salvation. It's up to you." He's like, "I'm just going to bear testimony after each point," and I would go and teach these people. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, I'd look around at him nervously, going, have I messed up? If I caught the right point? It's like, yeah, you're absolutely fine. Just carry. And he'd give me these like nods and stuff. I'm like, okay, at least I know I'm doing it right, because I'd be so nervous and so worried. Because that's the sort of person I am. I worry that I'm not doing enough. Or I'm not doing it well enough. And he was just a constant comfort for me. He did mock me quite a few times, because Dumfries Ward was known as the area of food. When I went on my mission, you had lunch and dinner every single day, and a few times a week you'd even have breakfast. And then, like, the flat that we lived in, opposite it, there was like a fish and chip shop that had like a breakfast menu. Members would take us there, or they'd call us around and go, "Look, do you want to come around? Like, we're about to do our studies." Like, "I'll do it afterwards. Come and have some food." And we'd go around to their house and eat food, because and like in my first area, in my first month, I put on 14 pounds, 15 pounds.
You put a stone on in your first few weeks?
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you understood what a stone was, so I was trying to convert it in my head. But yeah, I fattened up. And he wrote a song about me called Pubby, and members would hear it and laugh and sing it. And it was fun. It was, I mean, like I said, I enjoyed it. I thought it was funny. I thought it was brilliant. I really had a great opportunity to learn how to be a missionary. Like, he kind of came from the era as well where you didn't wear pink ties and all those sort of things. And he kind of told me, "Oh, by the way, I don't want you wearing a pink tie." And I brought a couple with me, some that had like blue and pink and checks and stripes, and he was like, "Yeah, you're not going to wear those around me." So I kind of just left them in my suitcase until he left, so I could wear them, because that wasn't a rule for me. Yeah. But for him, that was. And I respected that. And I was like, well, as my trainer, I respect what you've said. And we also had these people called the Turner family. And when I got there, they were like eternigators. They'd been being taught for 2 years. I don't know if you ever were there when they were found. I don't know what years.
I was there a long time before you. I was there in 2004. So.
Oh, okay. So they were found like 2 years before me, and they were found because they had a child with severe autism, and the mum was worried about how he was going to grow up in the world. And they lived on a riverbank, and it had flooded their house, and they'd lost everything. And the church kind of all came together, and even as they were only investigators at that point, the church came together and like, "Yeah, look, here's here's help. We'll house you. We'll make sure you get." They help build their house or put them in contact with people, and the church really came together for them. And when I got on my mission, they still hadn't made a decision, because they weren't sure how the church would respond to someone with autism. And I was able to make that contact with them and say, "Look, I'm autistic. I might not be on the same wavelength as their son, but I was able to connect to them." And they spoke to my mum and asked her how she coped in the church and things like that with a child like me, which I didn't appreciate how they said that. But and my mum kind of helped them understand that how good the church was with, especially with children with needs and things like that. And at one point, they basically said, when our son wants to get baptized, we will get baptized. And I think at that point in time, he was like 6. And we're like, oh, it's another 2 years. That's gonna be a nightmare. I've got to wait 2 more years for this. And everyone in the mission at the time knew who they were, because they were these people that were just chosen. They were select. They were where they needed to be. And at one point, just during a lesson, he went, I want to be baptized. And we're like, okay, but you can't be because you're not 8. You got to wait. And he's like, yeah, but I want to be baptized. And at that point, their mum and dad, and they had 3 other children. They were like, if he wants to get baptized, we're getting baptized. And they got baptized within like 2 weeks. But they were just really good. That was proof that service worked. And for me, that's what I wanted. Like, I wanted to serve people. I had another story of service that we would go around this lady's house and she would cook us the same food. It would be a sandwich and then with chips or fries. And the frying oil she'd used hadn't been changed in ever. It was as black as the night. And we would see it every single time. And like, she had cats, and like, there'd be a couple of times there was cat hair on the table when we were eating, and she would leave us in this room and go and sit in the front room with her grandson. And I'd be like, Elder, we've got to find a way to clean this up because I can't eat another hairy burger. I just can't. And so we kind of were like, well, why don't we do service for people? So we offered her service and said, look, we'd love to help you do stuff. And she did struggle with cleaning and things like that because she was an older lady, and you struggle when you get to certain ages. And so, look, we'll help you. We can do some cleaning. We'll do some yard work for you, something like that. And she would turn us down all the time. And so we kind of came up with an initiative where we spoke to the members and said, like at the beginning of Elders Quorum and the beginning of Release Society, we go and say that we're looking to do more service for the people here. We want to help you guys out. We've got snow shovels in the back of the car. We've got cleaning equipment. We bought a bunch of stuff for cleaning. This was with my second companion, which was Elder Schindlerek, and he was from the Czech Republic. And he kind of helped me see how missionary work could be different when it wasn't a greenie and a trainer. Because when it's a greenie and a trainer, the trainer's there to teach you how to do missionary work. Whereas when he came in, I wasn't no longer a greenie because I wasn't being trained by anyone. He was, and so he kind of was like, "Let's do missionary work now. We're going to teach together," and we kind of developed like really good companionship skills. We would bounce off each other, and we came up with this idea to do service and to do cleaning. And I'm hoping she never hears this. We went round her house, and I accidentally knocked the oil off the counter, and was like, "Oh no! Don't worry, we've got cleaning stuff in the back of our car." And went and we cleaned her entire kitchen for her. We got it all clean. I bought new oil for her because we were trying to do it as service. We wanted a service project. Then we did loads of other service for loads of other members, loads of random things, but it was just really good.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah,
I'm laughing that much because I had the same experience in several places where, the black flecks on your chips, and you're just like, oh my gosh, it was so terrible.
And the thing is, like, the food was usually nice. I mean, there was a couple of times where I had hair in my sandwich or burger, and I was like, I can't keep doing this. And like, there was one time where I bit into it, and I was like, I can't eat this. But she had no bin or trash can in her kitchen, and I'm like, I have to put it in my suit pocket and be like, I don't know what to do about this. I had to get the suits dry clean because they were just full of gunk everywhere. Well, I love that. I love that area. I also had the opportunity to baptize someone with Down syndrome as well.
Wow.
So because he was told he couldn't be baptized because he had Down syndrome. And that was the narrative for like 30 years. And his mum, who was a member of the church, was like, I want him to be baptized. And you might know her, it was the Bodles. They would have been, they'd been members for 20 odd years, but they were in and out of less activity. But she'd come back really strong. And we would teach him, and he was like, I want to be baptized. And we had to go, look, you've got to tell the bishop you want to be baptized, because he wouldn't sign off on it because he had Down syndrome. I mean, there wasn't a need for him to be baptized because he had Down syndrome, or that was the narrative at the time, coming from like church headquarters and stuff. And he basically went and sat down with the bishop and said, I want to be baptized, let me be baptized. And we got to teach him all the lessons, and he was great. He's since passed away years ago now, but it was just wonderful to see my hard work, because we were the ones helping him push that on, going, look, go and speak to the bishop. I can't go and tell the bishop you want to be baptized. You've got to tell him, and then we can teach you and we can get it sorted. And he's like, okay. And so we kind of stepped up from that point. And then the missions combined. And there was this big hoo-ha, so to speak. It was this thing like, oh, they're not going to be good missionaries because they're combining with us. And it was this, I remember just the negativity that was coming from experienced missionaries that I respected a lot. And I thought different of how, like, I'm not going to serve in Ireland because I'm not an Ireland missionary, I'm a Scotland missionary. And like, I know not every missionary was like that. And I've listened to Elder Rasmussen's podcast, and he said not everyone was like that. And I appreciate that not everyone was like that. But the few that I had around me were. And it was kind of like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. And then I got transferred to Belfast. And that was my second area. And I'm like, I'm going to Ireland, and everyone's saying Ireland's really bad. And I was panicking, going, I don't know if I'm ready for Ireland. Like, what am I going to do in Ireland? And I had an elder, Dylan Driscoll, and he was one of the funniest missionaries I've ever met. Like, he came on his mission late. He was in his late 20s when he went, or mid 20s when he went on his mission. But he just loved teaching. And I'm 5'6", and he was 6'4". And like an ex-linebacker for his college, he was this massive tank of a man. And there's just this little teenage kid walking around with him.
That's so good.
It was, yeah. I loved it. I served in the Hollywood Road ward, which is kind of west-south Belfast. Great opportunity. Got to have a lot of things, like mixing with different Irish missionaries that had perspectives on it as well, because they were all losing President Greer, who they revered and loved. And then they were having President Griffiths, who, different types of mission presidents who had different ways of, running a mission and wanting the missionaries to act and behave and do missionary work. And so it was kind of a clash of ideals. But it worked. I would say at that point the missionary work went up, like baptisms went up, like loads. Not just because there were more areas, but because we were combining different ways to be a missionary. And I loved that. And that was, I got the opportunity to. I think he was the only Irish missionary I served with, like that came from the Ireland mission. But I loved it. So he got made a district leader, and he hated it. He didn't want to be a district leader. And every single week he'd go, oh yeah, you can make the district meeting. I'm like, but you're the district leader. It's like, yeah, we're a district companionship. You can do it. And I'm like, no, you're the district leader. You need to make the district meeting. He's like, nah, you do it. And like for every week for 6 weeks, I'd be emailing Mission President going, I'm having to do the district meeting. He doesn't want to do the district meeting. I'm like, if I don't do it, it won't be done. And I was like, I don't want this. This is not me. And he's like, and I got this really weird feeling that he'd be a zone leader, and that he was only with me for one transfer, and then he got transferred to Aberdeen zone as zone leader. And one of the funniest things ever. But after that, I saw him a year later, and he said becoming his own leader changed me as a missionary. I love that, because when he was my district leader, he wanted to do missionary work just like me, but didn't want to be a leader at all, and he hated being a leader. And it's when he was with me. But we got the opportunity as well to tract an area that had never been tracted. So I don't know if you know anything about like Northern Ireland, but they had this thing called the Troubles, which is basically like an area where there were like homeland terrorists bombing civilian areas, and the British Army going over there to try and quell it, and there was fights breaking out, and it all stemmed from Catholic and Protestant religions and their opposing ideals and beliefs. And so a lot of places in Ireland have walls down the middle of the roads, and there'll be like 10, 15-foot walls down the middle of this road. And there was a couple of roads that on our map in our flat were marked with big X's: do not track, do not go down, this is dangerous for missionaries. And we're like, well, it's been like 20 years since those troubles, like, should we try? And we had to call our mission president and be like, President Griffiths, we want to track this area, but it's a do not track area. We've prayed about it, we have received inspiration that we need to go down and track it. And he's like, well, tracked it then. I'm like, oh, okay. I was expecting him to say, no, hold off on that. He's like, tracked it. Okay. And I was lucky because obviously I've got someone who's, 1,000 feet tall protecting me, so I'm safe. Like, I'm gonna be. I can run faster than him as well because I was young and fit then. And I was like, I can leave him behind. I'll be fine. He can take all the brunt of everything. And we got to go and track. But we got to go and track this area, and nothing came from it per se. Like, we had like a few investigators that were like, yeah, come back and meet with us, and we'd love to speak to you again. And we went a few times, but they were never in, or they dodged us, or they. But it was just nice to kind of go into an area that had never been tracked before, and witness what that's like, because quite a lot of Ireland has been tracked over and over and over again. A lot of Scotland has as well, been tracked over and over and over again. So it was nice to go to an area that had never been done before, and that was a wonderful opportunity. Then he left me alone, and I got Elder Craig Jeffries, who I'm probably not going to talk about much because we didn't get on. And I don't want this to be like a podcast where I'm being mean about someone, because we just differed in missionary style. He'd have to go tracked in. I like to go and walk around the city centre because that covered our area. We just had opposing styles of how missionary work was seen to be done, and we just didn't get along very well. But as a person, he was absolutely fine. And then, funny enough, he's the person who introduced me to my wife, even though we don't get along or didn't get along. And when I get to the end, I'll tell you all that. It's a fun story. But I'd call up the mission president. Mr. President, I can't stand this guy. We're clashing in missionary. I'd call. You spoke to Paul Blackburn. Mm-hmm. He was my zone leader at the time. I called him up and said, "You're going to have to come get me out of here because I'm going to hurt him. He's frustrating me. He's just doing things that aren't missionary. Like, he didn't do anything like against the missionary code. I want that said right now. But he just did things that I didn't approve of as a missionary. And I just was like, I need to get out of here. And I spent like 3 days with the zone leaders, like on splits." Because I just couldn't get along with him, and the mission and this was like the first transfer, and I told mission, I was like, "You're going to have to move me. I can't stand that." And he left me with him for another transfer, which humbled me a lot, because I had to be humble. But we struggled to do missionary work, and it's a point in my mission that I regret deeply now. That I wish I could have just got past it. And if I'd been serving now at this age, I would have probably just been like, no, let's just go and do it how you want to do it. Let's just do missionary work. But it didn't work. But I was only there for 3 transfers. Oh, I forgot to say I was in Dumfries for like 7.5 months.
Oh wow!
It gets longer. So I was in Belfast for 3 transfers, so 4.5 months, I think it is. And then I got the call that I was going to Buchan, which is Peterhead, way, like north of Aberdeen.
The land of the good. That's for sure.
That's where I trained at.
Well,
Yeah, we both served there together.
oh, did you?
Yeah,
So
we did.
me and my companion, which was Elder Livingston, Mackay Livingston, which I absolutely love him. Like, he was crazy, but I love him. So we got transferred there, and we were replacing a senior couple, so it was a whitewash. It was the transfer before Christmas, and we were whitewashing into an area where we didn't know anybody. We had no house to live in. We had no investigators, no area book, and the senior couple that we saw before they went home gave us this book, and we're like, "What is this?" And they're like, "Oh, this is our area book." And I looked at it, and none of it was what we taught as missionaries. It was all random points of doctrine. Like, one of the lessons was like blacks in the priesthood, just really random stuff. And we realized, and they're like, "Yeah, we've taught loads of people, we've baptized like 20 people," and we're like, "You taught them this?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So we then had to spend the first like 6 weeks of that area reteaching these people what tithing was, because they hadn't been taught tithing.
Jeez Louise.
And one of them was like a young men's president, and one was on the Relief Society presidency, and you're sitting there going, "These people haven't been taught what tithing is," and we panicked because we were like, "These people have been baptized but don't know the gospel. What's it going to be like when we reteach these people the gospel?"
Sure.
Because they're not going to know anything. And a few of them Shane said we lost because they just didn't accept tithing. They didn't accept, a couple of the principles that were meant to be taught, but they hadn't been taught them, which was a shame.
Wow.
We also got to pick our flat. That was a fun thing. We got to pick our flat. We picked it above a sweet shop. Absolutely loved that. Like, there were better places to live. We got told our budget, and we got told there's like these 5 houses you can pick from. And we went to all of them. And we're like, "No, we don't like those." And we went and we saw this place that was for rent, and we picked it because it was above a sweet shop. It had parking, which is what we needed. It was the weirdest flat in the world. It had a shower cubicle in the bedroom.
What?
And shower cubicle in the bedroom, and then you had to go through, and you went through to the study area or lounge, and then a kitchen sort of area, and then the toilet was at the far end. So the shower was one end, and it was weird, but we picked it because it was right near the town centre as well. To be fair, there was method in our madness, but the sweet shop being on our doorstep sealed, nail in the coffin, so to speak, because that's what we wanted. Also, so this area was the area that I killed the most missionaries. So I had Elder Livingston, who I had for I had him for 2 transfers. So I have this. So I still have my Preach My Gospel from my mission, and I use it every single Sunday. It has everything in it. But this is the case that I built on my mission, and it has all my missionary companions that I ever had on it. And so I'm referring to it.
I love it.
Like I said,
mine's around here somewhere too. That's one of my favorites.
But I know I love my Preach My Gospel. It has all my notes in and stuff. I can't switch to phones. Like, I still use my scriptures for as much as I can, just because I can't do with. I love my phone, but I can't do with it. Sorry. And then so I had Elder Livingston. He was great. And during that time, Buchan Ward had a chapel built. I presume there was no chapel when you guys served there.
No, it was.
But they had a chapel.
Long
was
promised.
at the Mid Law Academy down the road from where the chapel was built.
Yep. So the chapel was built, and so that was a great opportunity to get people through the door. We taught a couple of people. We taught a mum and like 3 children, and she was difficult to teach mainly because she was a single mum, and it was very difficult to get people to come teaching with us and to teach. It was very difficult to do stuff as a missionary when there are certain limits placed on it, which I understand completely. Not going against those sort of things, but it challenged us to find new ways to teach her. And she didn't have a car, so she couldn't drive. And so she relied on buses to get into church. It was like that, but she was lovely. I think she got baptized after I left. A lot of time, I always left there. My plan in my mind was always leave areas stronger than when I went in. So, and a lot of the area was baptized, like transfer or two after I left, and it was people that I had found. And I kind of, for me, that was my purpose. I don't mind not necessarily baptizing them. I just mind that they got baptized. That's all. That's the important part.
Yeah.
So the new chapel was built, and we had loads of investigators coming around, and it was just a brilliant time for Buck and Ward, and we were teaching loads of people. And Elder Livingston then went home, and then I had an Elder Jacob Stokes. I loved him as well, but he was also going home a week early from the mission field, which sucked because that meant that my area was going to be without missionaries for a week. But I was preparing for it, and I was like, "Oh, it's fine." And during that time, I had a little story. When I was on my mission, we were told obviously not to go in water, things like that. But around Buchan, there's loads of like cliffs and caves you can go around. And me and Elder Stokes, we went down to some rocky cliff face and things, and we're walking around these rocks. And across in the distance, I can see this metal pole sticking out, and it's bent over, and there's like a bit of rope hanging from it, which is obviously where boats were docked at one point in history. So I kind of go over there, and I see this rope, and he's busy looking in a rock pool somewhere, and I yank on this rope, and I'm like, that'll take him away. Yeah. And I kind of lean over, and I look down, and it's crystal clear blue water, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. This is so beautiful. And what a part of Scotland to be in, where it's just beautiful scenery everywhere. And then I hear a dunk, and like a lot of times when we talk about Looney Tunes, when like when gravity doesn't exist until they look at the rope, kind of thing. Like I felt the dunk, and I look over and I see the rope going down my hand, and I look down and go, well, I'm about to fall in some water here. And so I pushed off into the water because it was either hit rocks and then hit the water, or jump into water and kind of be okay. And
Gosh.
so I was like, that's what I'm doing. So I jumped off into the water, and I'm a very strong swimmer. I did lifeguard course when I was a kid, or maybe a year or so before I went on my mission. At this point, I was a very strong swimmer, and I remember Elder Stokes running over, and I can hear him say, I'm coming. I'm like, yeah, good. And I kind of swim over to these rocks, and I grab hold of these rocks, and all of a sudden I then feel like I'm being pulled down, and I still have like little scars. I mean, I'm not going to show on camera, but I have little scars on my fingers where they bled, and I was being dragged down. And when Elder Stokes came and he pulled me out, the water had turned like a black, but I had nothing on my legs. There was no injuries on my legs, and it was just one of the weirdest experiences because a lot of times we hear like Satan controls the waters and things like that, and whether that, I don't want to say that's true or not, because it's not doctrine I understand, but something definitely had hold of me that day, and it was a weird experience that I kind of never forgot. And we had to call the mission president and go, Elder Felton fell in the water. And I happened to have an interview with mission president, like the transfer after, going, what were you doing? I'm like, I was just looking across the water. I promise I wasn't doing anything naughty. I was good. Yeah. But yeah, falling into this water, that was a fun experience for me. And then like Elder Stokes was going home, and I'm like, this is gonna like. And we had loads of investigators, and I didn't want to lose that. Coincidentally, at the time, we had a missionary who came back from the France mission, coming back home to the ward, which was brilliant. And he couldn't be released straight away because the state president was on holiday. So he had to be a missionary for an extra week. So I called up the mission president and go, by the way, I resolved the issue because I didn't want to be with the zone leaders. I didn't want to spend a week with zone leaders. That'd have been a nightmare. So like, this new missionary's come home. If I give you the phone, you speak to him, could you you interview him and see if he's okay to serve as my companion for 1 week? And he's like, sure. So I gave him the phone, and my President Griffith spoke to him, and then he came back. He's like, yeah, you can serve with you for a week. So I had a missionary from another mission serve with me for a week, just so I didn't have to serve with the zone leaders, mainly. I just didn't want to go with the zone leaders. I wanted to stay in my area. I loved my area. I loved all my areas. There's not a single area I disliked in any way. But yeah, so had the opportunity to serve with him for a week, which was interesting because he'd come from a French mission, so he couldn't teach in English, because he'd only taught in French, and so it was really weird. I was like, we're going to teach these people the plan of salvation. He's like, okay, but I only know it in French, and I'm like, this is a problem.
That's a problem. Jeez.
And his name was Elder Jefferson Jameson. And I was there for 9 months.
Love the Jamesons.
Yeah. Well, he was a great missionary, and also because he was my companion, we pretty much spent every night at their house, and they were feeding us, and they just fed us these massive trays of food. And I loved it. Oh, it was great. And then my last companion in that area was Elder. Where is it? Elder Samuel Meekham. And this was the first time I became a senior companion. So I was senior companion for my last 2 transfers in that area. Obviously, I've been senior with Jameson, but I don't count him because he'd come home from his mission. He was more senior than I was. And so I served with him, really loved him, got on really well with him. We kind of had our own unique way at looking at missionary work. Like, we loved music, and we had loads of CDs, like all the Disney soundtracks, all the Motabs. We had a couple of CDs that were members of the church that weren't church music. So we just got on really well. Or at least I feel like we did. You know, we had disagreements every now and then, but everyone did. You know, you're living with different people. It's very difficult to always get along. But yeah, we kind of worked really well, and set up the area ready for the summer, because I was there until like July-ish. And then I got transferred to Mullingar, which is the centre of Ireland. And I got sent there to be with an elder. Where is it? Geoffrey Parker. And he was a great missionary. He had a complete understanding and awareness of what missionary work was, and he just wanted to go out and teach. And it was just brilliant. And we just loved it. It was one of my favourite things to do. We were right on the back of a Gaelic football field, which is it's a sport that they have over there. And they play 2 sports. So they play Gaelic football, which is pretty much where you can punch each other as you're running with a soccer ball. But then they have this other sport called hurling. And hurling, it's like baseball mixed with hockey, and you throw the ball up to smack it. And our car window got shattered multiple times because they had this net up, but the net was big enough to catch the footballs coming over, but not the hurling balls. And like, the hurling balls are the size of baseballs, so the netting was quite wide. It always come through. But we got an opportunity to play with them, like, because that was like one of the county teams. That was their ground. And they saw us walking past, like, do you want to come play? And we went over and played, and I got hurt. I got hurt a lot on my mission. I'm prone to accidents. Even now, I'm prone to accidents. But loved that area. And after Elder Parker left, I then got put with an Elder Morten Volheim, which is someone I want. I'd love to hear about his mission. He's from Norway. Absolutely loved him. He was one of the best companions I've had. We got on like a house on fire. Even to this day, like I messaged him the other day, just seeing how he was doing and telling him about this, telling him where he could listen to it and expect to hear about him. That was also the area I got in the most trouble. Not because I did anything naughty. We did things as a district that were meant to like bring us together as missionaries, and so we created this thing called a wolf pack, and it was just meant to be just for our district, and it was just meant to be all of us kind of as a pack. We're united in missionary work and stuff like that. And then people from the zone wanted to join it, and like pretty soon it kind of spread to like different zones. And then when missionaries got transferred to those zones, and whenever you'd meet someone, they'd howl at each other, and it to the point where Mr. President was like, "This needs to stop." And I'm sitting there going, "It wasn't ever meant to go anywhere. It was just meant to be 4 of us." And then like loads of people got on board, like loads of people, and like even like when I was leaving the mission, someone who was training that week, I can't remember who it was, came over to me, and I was the Alpha Wolf because I was the original person who created it. And he comes over and he's like, "Oh, Alpha Wolf, it's nice to meet you." I'm like, "Oh, this needs to stop." Like, I promise it wasn't meant to go this far. And I just thinking about how far it went, and I got in. Mr. President called me up and was like, I hear you've made some sort of cult. I'm like, "No, we haven't. I promise. It's not a cult. It's meant to be a bit of fun amongst missionaries that took too far by other missionaries." But I got blamed for it. But in that area as well, we found this Muslim house, I guess you could say. We were knocking on a door, and we opened up, and there's like 5 Muslim guys all living in this house, and they're all going to the university. And they invite us in, and they're like, "Oh, do you want tea or coffee?" And we're like, "Actually, we don't drink tea or coffee. Let's talk about that." And we kind of taught the word of wisdom and had a great experience. And we showed them the Book of Mormon, and taught them about how we have a prophet, and they really were on board with it. It was crazy how much they liked the idea that we still had a prophet, that we received revelation, and they're like, "Oh yeah, can you please come back?" And we're like, "Yeah, sure." And they're like, "Oh, here's a Quran," and it was a Quran in English. And I'm like, "I don't know if we're allowed to accept these, but I'll take it, because they've taken the Book of Mormon that we gave them, so I guess I'll take it." So we kind of took it, and they were like, "Yeah, look, if you have a read of that, we'll have a read of the Book of Mormon. We can discuss it." And I was like, "Deal, done." And we kind of said, "I will come and see you next Tuesday." We went the following Tuesday, and they had read the entire Book of Mormon back to front. They had made notes. They came with more questions than I had answers to as a young missionary, and I'm going, "Wow. I don't know what to say here." And I'm having to answer these questions, and that's where I learned to kind of say, "I don't know the answer, but I will find it out for you, and I'll come back to you next week and I'll answer that for you. Is that okay?" And they're like, "Yeah." That's where I learned how to do that, because before I'd never needed to do that. And it was just a great opportunity. And we kind of went through the Quran, and they're like, "Oh, do you want a hot drink?" And we're like, "We don't drink tea and coffee." Like, "No, we went and got hot chocolate for you." Like, "Oh, yeah, of course we'll have a hot chocolate. Go on then." Because they understood what we had taught them, and we kind of taught them for 2 or 3 months, and we would just go back every couple of weeks, and there'd be every single time we went, there'd be an extra person there. And at one point, I think there was 10 people in that room, and we're teaching, and we're talking about Joseph Smith, and we're talking about the plan of salvation. They love the plan of salvation, and we're talking about and we would I mean, I read the Quran at that point because I was curious about what it taught and if there was any connection with my faith, because they were willing to do it with theirs. So I felt obligated, I guess is the right word, to do it. So I did it. And I mean, like I said, that there were things in there that I can understand why they believe what they believe. And we had these great topics of conversation backwards and forwards about different religions, but how we kind of believe similar things, like they believe in abstinence and certain other things as well. They don't drink alcohol, and, because it's impure. I mean, like it was things like that, and it was great. And I kind of loved that. It's just a great opportunity. And like in Mullingar as well, there's quite a lot of Nigerian families. And we had this family that we were teaching. And every time we would go, and this is, I developed a love of basketball because of them. My basketball team is the LA Clippers. You can hate on me now if you want, it's fine. But every single time
we'll say no things about the LA Clippers.
Every time we would go to their house, they would always have a basketball game on, and it would always be the LA Clippers. I've no idea why. It wasn't like it was Clipper TV or anything like that. Just always have a game that they were playing in. And they would be like, yeah, you can teach us, but you've got to wait until the game's over. And usually we'd arrive and there'd be like 10 minutes of the game left. And I'm like, fine. And I hated it because I was like, I shouldn't be watching this. This is not what I'm here to do. I'm here to teach. And like, a couple of weeks later, I went to them to Elder Volheim. I was like, how about we go later? Like, we'll just go 10 minutes later. That'd be absolutely fine because they're watching. It's the same basketball show they're watching. And we got there, and they just started a Nigerian movie. It was all in Nigerian. I had no idea what they said. And they're like, yeah, you've got to wait until this movie finishes now, and then you can teach us. But they always come to church. They kept commitments. They were great. But we had to wait until they finished this basketball just for 10 minutes. And I'm sitting there like, I don't need to watch this. But developed a love of basketball because of it. So
Jack and I can appreciate that. Jack is a coach for a high school team in our area, and I officiate high school basketball. So if we had watched that game, we would have said, "Sure, rewind it to halftime."
Let's go earlier.
I just always wanted. I love teaching. Like it's who I am. It's what I want to be. I just love. Like my wife always tells me, like I could teach anything. You could give me a book on like quantum mechanics, and I'll just read through it, and I could teach a lesson from it because it's just something I'm good at doing. It's something that I found was my purpose on the mission, which I really loved. And I was in Mullingar for 4.5 months, and I thought I was gonna die there. I only had 3 months left, and I was like, I'm unlikely to get transferred anywhere. And then I get a call going, and Christmas is coming up because I finished in February. So Christmas is coming up. I've got all these families I'm going to go see over the Christmas period. I've already penciled them into my new diary. I'm going to come see this person. I'm going to see this person on this day. I get the call. My missionary goes, I'm moving you to Clondalkin, which is West Dublin. I'm like, what? Both Christmases I got moved just the transfer before Christmas when people were going to spend it with me, and I got moved to areas that I didn't know anything about. I was so gutted and so, I wouldn't say upset, but I was gutted that I didn't get to see the people that I developed a loving connection to. I went to Clondalkin, maybe against my wishes, but I went there, developed an absolute love of it. I got told I was retraining a missionary whose trainer had basically gone, got really trunky towards the end of his mission and didn't teach the guy much. And I got told I was with him. His name was Tyson King, and really loved him. I'm pretty sure he was told by my mission president, Elder Felton's really trunky. Make sure he keeps doing the work. I don't have any proof of that, but I'm pretty sure that's what he was told. But I was told he needed to be retrained. And I was like, fine. I guess I'll do that. And loved him. He was a great young kid. I never knew what became of him on his mission, but he was one of those ones that you could see were destined to be like a zone leader on AP. He just had that aura around him, just that confidence to like we'd walk down the street and I'd see someone, I'd be like, yeah, let's go and stop that person. Just as you're about to walk past, they whip out their phone and you're like, well, they clearly don't want to talk to us and stuff. And he'd be turn around, he'd grab one of their arm and go, excuse me, I want to talk to you about the gospel. And I'd be like, oh, I guess we're doing this now. Like we're going to be stopping people, whether they're on the phone or not. Love it. But I loved it. It was great. And it really kept me from being chunky because there was a lot of times where I thought I'm so close to going home. I just want to go home. Just let me go home. You played that game. How far away is that plane? And I'd be like, I'd go to my companion. I'd go to Elder King. I was like, Elder King, how far away is that plane? I was like, for me, that's 3 months. For you, that's like a year and a half. So enjoy. That plane's 3 months. But it was all done in jest because I would say at that point in time, I'm going to own up now. I gave up doing exercise. I was just done with exercise. I'd wake up in the morning. My exercise would be sitting up out of bed. That's about as far as it got. But we had like weights and stuff in the flat. From what I understood, a missionary who had served in Ireland years before, he was quite wealthy, and he would buy himself a new set of weights in every area he served in. This just happened to be an area that had a set of weights in it. Like a full like bench press, like curling bars, everything. Were just bought. So there was everything in the flat. So we could do our exercise definitely, but I didn't have a desire to run in the morning anymore. In this area, the Christmas though was the best Christmas of my mission. We arrived and we got a call saying, "Oh, by the way, you come around to us for Christmas." And it was, I can never remember the family. Like I said, at this point, I wasn't writing a journal anymore. I've tried looking and I can't see it in any of my missionary planners. But a family called us up and said, "You come around to us for dinner at 12 o'clock." We're like, cool. We need to call our families. So we called our families and had this massive Christmas dinner, the works, everything you can imagine, like so much food. I can, even now, it makes me sick thinking about how much food there was. And in our planners, we'd already planned to see someone at, I think it was like 6 o'clock. And that was also another family who were going to feed us a Christmas dinner. So I'm sitting there going, we've got this massive Christmas dinner. We've then got probably an hour or two in between appointments to then go to another family for Christmas dinner. And I'm like, okay, we can do this, Elder. We can do this. And he's looking at me going, yeah, of course we can do this. But he was like 6'2", but he was really slim and slender. And I'm sitting looking at him going, yeah, you have somewhere to put it though. I'm tiny. I don't have anywhere to put this. And literally just as we finish our appointment with this family, and I'm like, let's go back home. Let's get prepared to go to this other family. We get a call, and it's an unknown number. I'm like, who is this? And we call this up, and he goes, "Hello, elders. My name is," I can't remember. He was from Nigeria. He's like, "I'm from Nigeria. I've just moved to this ward. I'd love to see you guys." And we're like, "Okay." He's like, "Could you come around in the next half an hour? This is my address." And we're like, "Yeah, of course we can come and see you." So we kind of put it down and we're like, "Yeah, let's go and see this guy." And we go around there and he's cooked us a Christmas dinner. But like a Nigerian style, so there's like some spicy food and stuff. And I'm looking at this food going, I'm never going to eat this. Like I'm still full. And he's like putting stuff on my plate because that was like the Nigerian way. They pick up their plate and they shove all this food on. They go, "There you go, eat it." And you're like, "Okay, cool." And I'm eating it, and I take like 2 or 3 bites, and I look at my companion, I'm like, "I'm done." Like, and he's just eating like it's nothing. And I'm like, "I'm done." And then at that point, I felt sick, and I'm like, "I've got to go somewhere." I'm like, where's your toilet? And he goes, it's down there. And I go, and I'm just sick everywhere.
Oh my
And I'm
God.
like, this is awful. I've just been sick all over this guy's toilet. He's just moved into this house. And like, luckily there was cleaning stuff. And I'm like cleaning all the stuff up and I'm mopping it all up. And I cleaned it to the best of my ability. And I go in and I'm like, yeah, I apologize. And he's like, yeah, you were a long time. Are you fine? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Just played it off like nothing had happened. Ate a little bit more food and was like, yeah, I'm kind of full, but thank you very much for offering me this, knowing that I've still got to go and have another Christmas dinner. It's just
Oh
not
my God.
not looking forward to it. This area also had, because there's a hospital, there's a load of Filipinos who live there. My wife is from the Philippines, and this is where I developed my love of Filipinos and Filipino food. Like, I knew I was going home. Um, I, they had a couple of YSA women that were young Filipino women. I was like, well, they're very attractive. Maybe after my mission, I can come back and something might happen. Never did. Mainly because I didn't go back. Still haven't. I've been back to Scotland many times. Just never been back to Ireland. I'd love to, but I just haven't. But I remember we went back. There was like 4 or 5 different Filipino families with like 12 kids each, and they would just feed us loads of food. Like, you'd sit down, and like if you didn't have a plate in your hand or something in your mouth, like the sister or the mother of the family would come and go, "Are you hungry? Hang on a second." And before you can even answer, she's gone to the kitchen and come back with something. And you're like, "Oh, I guess I'm eating this now." And she's like, "Yeah, teach us a lesson whilst you eat." And I'm like, "It's very difficult to teach." I'm chewing something here, but absolutely just fell in love with them. And then like got the call, by the way, you're going home. And I'm like, great. And someone else who was in my group, he lived in Wales. And he was like, he called me up and he was like, "Oh, by the way, it's cheaper to go via plane to our locations rather than on the train." And I was like, "Okay, sure," not realizing that the plane has a weight limit for luggage. And I had 2 massive suitcases and got told I could only bring one. And I was so annoyed because I was planning to go on a train so that I could take all my stuff home with me. So I left so much stuff in Ireland because I couldn't take it. I left suits, I left ties, I left like teaching materials that I'd use to teach children, like plans I'd come up with, because I came up with these like specific lessons for teaching children. I'm trying to think of one. Like, one of them was like a tic-tac-toe, but like a word of wisdom tic-tac-toe. So they had to answer a question about the word of wisdom, and then they could put an X or a cross down, and it got the kids engaged. It'd be stuff like, does the word of wisdom ban chocolate? True or false? And they'd have to go, "Oh, that's false. It doesn't ban chocolate." And you're like, "Yeah, it doesn't. Well done." But it got kids engaged. And that was one of the things I loved doing. I had to leave all that sort of stuff behind, and it was just a shame I had to leave so many memories of things I had.
Yeah, that would be challenging.
All because someone wanted to get home 15 minutes earlier. That was literally the only reason. He wanted to get home quicker. And I was happy to take a 4-hour train ride rather than a 2-hour plane ride. That was fine for me, but I didn't get a choice in the matter. We got to go back to the mission office, got to climb Arthur's seat again, which I was grateful I only did twice. I did not like that walk. But got to have meetings with my mission president. I was grateful for everything he did for me. And and that my mission set me up for who I am and what happened after my mission as well. I'll take a drink quickly, sorry.
You're good.
So after my mission, as I said at the beginning, I went first out of all my friends. So there was like a group of 4 or 5 of us all went on our missions. I was the first one to go, and the next one after me was 6 months later. And so I came back home from my mission alone. There was a couple of YSA girls, but none that I was like interested in or particularly friendly with before my mission. So I wasn't going to be friendly with them now. I kind of came home from a mission and was just like, so like depressed. Like, I mean, I don't know if it was like it for you guys, but when you got released as a missionary, you just lost this portion of spirit that you had, and I just lost. I felt like I'd lost a part of my body, and I felt awful. I got into depression. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to do anything. Like my parents were like worried about me, like, oh, what's up with you? And I just don't know. I just don't feel like doing anything. I don't like feeling like finding a job and like a lot of people when they come home from the missions, like parents have bought them a car or they're going to university so they know where they're going, or they've got a job, or they're going to join the family business. So my dad's job was teaching people how to get jobs. So I didn't have a business to go into. Luckily I had a place to stay because my parents had kept my bedroom for me. But I didn't have a car. I didn't have any friends in the church. I had friends from school, but they were the negative influences that I'd left behind. And I wasn't going to go back to them. I was smart enough at that point to know I'm not going back to them. And it was awful. And even to the point now where I feel like when you serve a mission, you do slightly less than 2 years. It varies, but it's usually a little bit less than 2 years because of how transfers work. And I always feel like there should be an RMTC where you go back to your local MTC. So I'd go back to Preston, you guys would go back to Provo, and they kind of go, okay, this is what's happened in the world since you've been on your mission. This is like how to apply for college, how to apply for jobs, how to apply for mortgages, do job interview skills, how to date without being awkward around girls. Because all I knew how to do was talk about the gospel. Like no girl when you come back home from a mission who's 19, 20 or whatever age is interested in you talking about, let's talk about the plan of salvation, shall we? What's your favorite part of the plan of salvation? No one wants to talk about that. And I just feel like if there was an RMTC that you went back to for like a week or so, where they just kind of got you back into society, we would lose less missionaries to less activity, but would also allow more missionaries to feel productive about where they're going, maybe like even help towards like applying for college or university and things like that. Like, I live in a place where that I'm not feasible to do that, but I think it would just be a great idea for the church to come up with some sort of plan to help. Because it was probably one of the darkest moments in my life, was just realizing how alone I was after my mission. I don't know how any of you felt, but
you're not the first one to make that suggestion, actually, on the podcast that we have some sort of return training center.
But I think it would just be. I speak to the missionaries in our ward now, and they're like, "Yeah, we've got this little thing for when you go back home. You have to do online, but like set goals and stuff. It doesn't really do anything because it doesn't really help anyway." I'm like, "Yeah." Whereas if you had a physical place to go, meet the other missionaries that are finishing their missions at the same time as you build that bond. There's just anyway. So after my mission, I fell into that, and then the bishop that I had at the time, because it had changed, he was like, "Go be an FSY counselor." I'm like, "Yeah, FSY counselor. I love that." Didn't know what it was. Well, it was EFY back then. Didn't know what it was. I think I'd been to one EFY possibly, and didn't remember it. So I got an opportunity to be an EFY counselor, and unlike in America, we only do it for like a week. And so, like, whereas I know in America it's like a 6-week thing, and it's a vocation, like it's a job.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas here it's not; it's still service activity that you're doing. But I just got an opportunity to love children that wanted to be in church, wanted to go to church, and it was a great opportunity to teach. And I got an older group, and a couple of them had already received their mission calls, so it was great to go. Oh, by the way, I'm helping you in this EFY, but also you're going on your mission soon. You're going to love it. This is what to expect. This is what's going to happen. It was great. So, like, I love imparting wisdom. I'm not very wise, but I like to think I might be sometimes. It was just great to impart that wisdom to these young men and women who were going to serve a mission that was part of my AFY group that I was a counsellor for. Shortly after or during, I got an email from Craig Jeffries, who was one of the missionaries I served with in Belfast. I didn't get on with him. And after his mission, he had moved to Hong Kong. And he had met a lady and married her, and she was from Indonesia. And they went to a birthday party. And a lady went to this birthday party who happened to be my wife. And she was single at the time. And he goes up to her and goes, "Why are you still single? Why have you not found a husband?" You know, like, and she's like, "Oh, I just haven't found the right person." And he's like, "I got you. I've got the right person for you." And then emailed me on Facebook me and said, and I've got it. I did have it somewhere. It says, "Hi, Ian. I found your wife. You need to talk to her." And I was like, "Okay, let's take a step back, shall we? I haven't even found a girlfriend yet. Let's not jump that far ahead." And I was like, "Well, fine. I'll talk to this lady because I had nothing else to do. There was nothing else planned. You know, what was it hurting?" And I started talking to her, and she was a Filipino, and she was working in Hong Kong, and she was just lovely. She was light of my life, and I really got on with her. And I was like, "Well, I need to meet her. I still haven't met her yet." I was like, "What do I do?" And like all this sort of stuff stems from my mission. And I got the inspiration that I needed to go to the temple. And I went to the temple, took a question. The question was, "I like this girl. What should I do?" And the inspiration I got was, "Go to Hong Kong." And I'm looking at my bank statement going, that's like a £1,500, pound trip. Flights, and then I've got to stay somewhere. I've got to pay for activities. So that's an expensive vacation. I'm like, went home, was like, okay, I'll think about it. Then like another family was going down to the temple the following weekend. So I was like, "Can I come with you?" Went down with them, took the same question, got another answer. "You need to go to Hong Kong and find out." I'm like, "Oh, my parents aren't going to like this. I'm bored. I've come in for my mission. Now I'm going to leave them again, go over." And I'm like, "Nah, I'll put it off." And then my parents are like, "Oh, we're going to go to the temple next month. Do you want to come with us?" I'm like, "Sure." Go to the temple again. And this time it was more like God just couldn't be bothered to keep telling me anymore. He was just angry with me. It was like a slap in the face. It was like, "Go to Hong Kong now." And I'm like, "Yes, sir." So I told my mum. I was like, "Mum, I've received inspiration. Like I'm talking to this girl that I really like, but I need to go to Hong Kong. Do you have any, anything against it?" She's like, "No, go. You're young." Like at this point, my sister, who's like 2 years younger than me, she had traveled to America. She had traveled to like Greece and Italy, and she traveled all around different parts of the world, and I hadn't traveled anywhere. So my mum was like, "Yeah, go and be yourself somewhere else. Go and do something." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And I had a job at this point as well, and I was like, "Okay, I'm going to go away for 16 days." And I remember thinking to myself, what if she's the one? Do I want to waste this opportunity? I'm going over for 16 days. Do I want to go over, find out she's the one, and then not ever see her again? So I took a friend and we went and got an engagement ring. I didn't tell my parents, by the way. My parents had no clue about any of this. Bought an engagement ring. Went over to Hong Kong. And I don't know what it was like when you two met your wives, but the moment I saw my wife, I instantly knew she was the one. It wasn't like, it took me a couple of days. It was in the airport, she standing there. There was no one else around it. It was lights around it. Angels were singing and playing trumpets. There was a big neon sign above her saying, "She's the one." I couldn't, and for me, that was the Spirit telling me she was the one. Like I'd been praying on the plane ride over that I was going to have a good time with her and I was going to get to know her very well. And as soon as I saw her, I knew she was the one. And 4 days later, which happened to be the day before my birthday, which was New Year's Eve, I proposed to her. And then I called my parents up on my birthday on New Year's Day and said, "Oh, by the way, we're engaged." And my mum refused to talk to me for a month. My mum was like watching the camera, and then she kind of just stood out of the way and then my dad just stepped in and talked to me and was like, "Well, that's good news." And I'm like, "Yeah, it is." So this Craig guy had introduced me to her, and I was grateful for that because, like I said, we didn't get on as missionary companions. Oh, we lost someone. We didn't get on as missionary companions, but as friends, we were fine. And he was like, "Oh, now you're engaged, how about you you get a job over here?" And I'm like, "How can I get a job over here? I've got no qualifications. I've got no skills." He's like, "Well, I teach English in this centre. Come teach with me." I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds great." So I went and met with this guy who happened to be a member of the church as well that ran a centre. And he was like, "Okay, I need you to teach the show. I need you to see that you can teach." I'm like, "I got this. Like, give me anything. I can teach anything in the world. I have got this." And he gives me this book, and I'm like, "Okay, cool." And I go and teach these children for 45 minutes. I can't remember what it was, ABCs or something, but like learning English. And afterwards, he was like, "I need you. You need to work here." And I'm like, "Okay, but I've got to go back home because I've got a job that I need to quit. I can't just stay here." And I was like, "I need a month because I have to give a month's notice." And he's like, "Oh, that's absolutely fine, not an issue. That'll give me a time to get your visa sorted and everything else." I'm like, "Brilliant, love that." So I go over there, and I find out the job I've been given is Craig's job, and I felt awful because I didn't know. No one told me, and Craig got really upset with me because he thought I'd stolen it, but I hadn't, ever done that. I felt really bad, and I was like, "Okay, well, I need to live over here, so I'm going to have to teach." And at the time, my wife's job, so she was an au pair or live-in nanny. So she only got one day off a week, which was a Sunday, and she only got 12 hours. And we were like, "Well, how are we going to get married?" Because like over there, they're very strict with time off and stuff, and they don't give much time off. And I'm like, how do we do this? And we had to speak to the Area 70, who then had to get permission from higher ups in Salt Lake so that we could get married on a Sunday. Because the only way she could live with me was if we were married, but the only way she could get a visa was if we were married as well. So we had to tick off those two boxes anyway. And so we got approval to get married on a Sunday, which was a great experience for me. But we couldn't go to the temple on the same day because temples aren't open on Sundays. So that was another hurdle we had to. I've got a written email from the prophet because my parents, about 3 months after we got married, were coming over to meet my wife for the first time. And when they came over, I wanted to go to the temple and get sealed in the temple with my wife. But at the time, that was a time when you had to wait a year after your wedding.
Mm-hmm.
But this was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. And we wrote a letter and got approval from the prophet to get married 3 months later in the temple so my family could be there. And then the general conference after that, they announced that as soon as reasonably possible, you can get married in the temple. And I kind of like to think that I was the start for that. I'm the one who kind of made them realise that was a thing still. Like whether it's true or not, I have no clue. But
amazing. Wow.
And we got sealed by Elder Gong as well. He's the one who sealed me and my wife in the temple, which was a wonderful experience. And then he picked on me a couple of weeks later. It was a district conference, and he was the Area 70 in charge at that point. And he goes, he points at me and my wife, and the branch president comes down. He goes, Elder Gong has asked if you and your wife could bear testimony on a temple and temple marriage. And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. I'm being picked on now in front of like 1,000 people across the district, because the district over there, like they have church every day of the week over there, except Mondays, because certain people only have days off. It's a weird bubble in Hong Kong. But the branch presidency, the district that we were part of, our branch had 300 members, like active all the time. You know, it was like a Utah ward, or at least how I imagine a Utah ward, because there were loads of Americans in that ward, because they were like doing like law and stuff. And but yeah, that was just a wonderful opportunity. And then I kept getting sick in Hong Kong and needed to come back to the UK because I kept getting chest infection, I kept getting sick, and no amount of doctors or help was curing it. I think it was the pollution. I hadn't ever lived in a big city before, and I think it just got to me. So we made the plan at this point. So my wife had just given birth to my daughter. We made the plan that we were going to move back. And about a year later, we had the funds and stuff, and we moved back to the UK. The day before we flew back to the UK, we found out she was pregnant with my son, which was lovely. Lovely news to find out, as you found out she was 3 months pregnant, and we're going back to the UK. And at this point, she only had a temporary visa, so she had to go back to the Philippines afterwards. And that wasn't long enough for her to give birth. So we were worried that, you know, she's going to be traveling at like 7 months pregnant.
Yeah.
You know, that's dangerous for the babies or baby. And we weren't kind of sure about what was going to happen. And came back to the UK and couldn't find a job. There was no jobs going anywhere. And I was praying about jobs and, you know, what I was going to do in my life. I'm about to lose and we had to leave my wife and daughter, who was 18 months old, and my wife was, 16, 18 months old, and then my wife was 7 months pregnant, and not sure. And she was going back to the Philippines, where she had nowhere to live. She had nothing to go back to, and I felt like the worst father in the world, the worst husband in the world, because I had to go back to the UK, but I had no way of. I didn't have a job, so I couldn't. And like the UK has quite strict rules for married couples. So you've got to have a house that has a bedroom for each child individually. You've got to have a certain income that they have. You have to have proof that you're a marriage and not just a marriage of convenience, which some people try to. We had to prove that, you know, we lived in Hong Kong. We had to have letters from people, and it was really, really hard. And we were apart for 20 months, and I only got to see my son when he was born, and then when I went to pick them up to come home, that was it. And it was one of the worst parts of my life, because I mean, you can imagine how difficult it'd be to be without, you know, your partner. It's just an awful thing. But eventually, like, with the help of members and, you know, understanding that marriage is for eternity, and I knew the church was true, and so that didn't affect, like, it was really weird, like losing my wife. I was really sad when she had to go, but I didn't fall into that same depression that I had after my mission, because I knew God's plan, and I knew it better. I had gone through things and was grateful. And then when they were back, I knew this was, you know, we've been back, you know, been in the UK for eight years back now, and, you know, my children love it here, and my wife loves it here because it's not as hot. So it's just a great thing. And I work in a prison now, which is a very interesting job. You see a lot of interesting things that probably aren't appropriate for this podcast. But about 3 years ago, I also developed cancer. I had kidney cancer, and that again was another trial I had to go through. I had to understand what God's purpose was for me, and it's very difficult to go, you know, why am I getting it? I live healthily. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I'm not addicted to things. Although my wife would say I'm addicted to Pepsi Max, but I'm not addicted to things. But it was hard, to have to go through, through that. But once again, I had the love of the ward. I had the love of my family, the support of my family, and it just showed to me the church is true. The church is such a supportive church where it's there for people when you need it, and I needed it, and it was great. And yeah, and now in my calling, I get to give back. I'm sure Joe mentioned it before. I'm his first counsellor. When we live in the same ward, but before, when we had our last bishop, it was a run-in between who the next bishop was going to be, between me and him. And I said it's going to be him, and he said, well, if it is him, he's going to pick me as a counsellor. And I said, don't you dare. He did. And we went and spoke to our stake presidency member, and I told my wife, I was like, just tell them I'm not living the gospel. I don't have to do the calling then. And like, he comes and goes, so how well is your husband doing? Does he do this? Does he do that? And she goes, yeah, he's perfect. And I'm like, you're not helping me here. But I mean, I'm 3 years into a calling that I didn't want, but now I love, and I couldn't see myself doing anything else at the moment. I love it. I love serving the ward that I'm in. I love the people. And it's given. My favorite scripture is Mosiah 2:17. About serving, and I love serving. Like, if someone came up to me and said, "Would you want to go on a mission?" I'd go in a heartbeat. I'd probably be leaving before I've told my wife. I'd probably give her a call on the phone going, I'm going on a mission again. Love you, bye. I'll see you in 2 years. I loved it. And it made me who I was. A lot of the things that came after my mission, if I hadn't served the mission, I probably wouldn't have been in the position I am today. I probably wouldn't have understood the gospel as well. I wouldn't have, I'd hate to think of where I'd be if I didn't have this church in my life. I really do, and the mission helped me realize that, because I don't think I would have realized that if I hadn't gone on the mission.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, we love that, Ian. Thank you so much for all that you shared. And like you said, I mean, a lot of things happen in our lives that lead us down the path that we're supposed to be. I can't say that any of my companions introduced me to my spouse, but that's okay. Those things happen for a reason, and that was a really unique story that you shared, with the fact that as missionaries, you and Craig weren't necessarily the best of friends, but that you had come to mind when that person was put in front of him as a potential suitor. I mean, what are the chances of that? You know what I mean? It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I would never even thought about, like, on my mission. If someone had told me on my mission, oh, that missionary that you didn't get on with is going to introduce you to your wife, I'd have laughed them off. But, nah, you're crazy, and
pretty amazing. Well, Ian, we really appreciate you making time for us tonight. It's truly a blessing for Jack and I to be able to reminisce about not only the missionary experiences, but the place that we all love so much. I mean, you have Ireland as part of your experience, but you're still part of the S.E.M family. And we're so grateful for you. We love you, and are super grateful you made time for us tonight.
Thank you for making time for me. I love talking about my mission. My kids will tell you all the time. I'll tell them stories about things that happened on my mission. They're like, Dad, stop it. I'm like, but, I don't. No one else is going to listen except you. So it's just great to get it all out.
Oh, we love it. And like we've said in prior podcasts, we do love referrals. So you've got some people that you've mentioned that we haven't talked to on the podcast that we'd love to have on, if they're willing. I mean, we're not forcing anyone in any way, shape, or form. Our goal, obviously, is to have a platform for people to come and share any of their experiences, good, bad, ugly, anything in between. I mean, we've heard all of the experiences of the mission in Scotland, and the thing that Jack and I love the most about this is that every single story is unique. Like,
yeah,
that is it is unique to you, and that is exactly what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be something that shapes you to be who you're supposed to be moving forward into life, and it certainly has done that for many of us. So, but
yeah. I'd love to hear what my companions thought of me, but some of them I probably wouldn't. I'd love to hear them, but I also kind of don't, because I don't think necessarily I was the most easy to get along with, but I don't think I would tried, but I don't know. I'd love to hear what they said about me, whether they will or not.
Yeah, well,
another story.
As you suggested, share this with them as we get it published here in the coming weeks, and we'll make sure that we can get in touch with them as soon as possible. Or they could volunteer themselves by going to our website, 51spylaw.com, fill out a contact sheet, and we'll do what we did with you, Ian, and get in touch and arrange a time
I've already
to chat.
passed it on to Elder Volheim, and I'm waiting for Elder Schindelek, because they were the two that really have become like found out. Me and Elder Schindelek, after his mission, we both travelled up to Scotland. He came over, stayed with me, and we travelled up to Scotland for 2 weeks to go to all the areas we'd served in. So I'd love to get him on, but he hasn't messaged me back yet. But being in the Czech Republic, it's probably a bit difficult.
Yeah. You know, you planted the seed, and eventually those opportunities will present themselves. So that's awesome. Well, Ian, we'll say goodnight to you. We love you as our butler in Scotland, and we'll give you a cheerio, all right?
Yeah, love you all too. Have a good day.
See you.
Yeah.
Bye.